also probably need to move myself a little bit. Let me do some machinations. Move myself right around here. Try to align up to the left. A little bit up. No. Okay. No. Just said okay and then dropped. Okay. I'll sit here today. Okay, let's see where we were. Resist cumbersome curtains and king. What is this? Oh, we are getting some new files. Guy's Not Dead. The Guy's Not Dead conspiracy stems from a website that focuses on clues that Roottrees have, supposedly, hid all over the place. This includes on candy wrappers, in print advertisements, I can get the music on the right level, in television commercials, in their jingles, etc. The story, according to the website, is that Guy Hudson was a terrible president of the Roottrees company and introduced multiple failed products, which is true. Something needed to be done that would put the company immediately and instantly back in the favor of consumers. So they killed off Guy Hudson and replaced him with a new president. This move immediately garnered sympathy, and the company recovered the next year, more popular than ever. The next president stayed much further out of the limelight, and some people even theorized that this was simply Guy Hudson in an elaborate disguise, which is why he stopped appearing in public. The people who run the site are asking for help. They're certain that there is a clue to all of these that accidentally leaked in a banned article from the magazine Picoty. This page is a scan of the magazine's cover. The interview with Cecily Sanchez about Guy Hudson and some photos. You add them to your evidence. Finally, we get something. Who are you? This photo is the first from magazine interview with Cecily Sanchez in Picoty. The issue of Picoty magazine that came from was pulled from the shelves, but you managed to find online. Picoty does not label its individual photos. Both photos were instead under the shared label Cecily, providing these photos by Roottrees company for use in her book. In the background of the photo, there is a Christmas tree. There's also another woman in here. Who the hell are you? This photo is the first from the magazine interview with Cecily Sanchez in Picoty. The issue of Picoty magazine, it came from blah 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 blah. Okay. This is an interview with Cecily Sanchez, an author. She was hired to write a book about Guy Hudson. You claim to have been paid a significant amount to write a book about one of the Roottrees, Guy Hudson. He was president for a short period at the end of 1970s, right? Yeah. I met him on New Year's Eve, actually, the last night of 1978. Guy liked to throw big parties. I was just coming off Change Man and looking for my next project. When his wife learned who I was, She invited me to the party and they cornered me to talk about a book. That was the first time anyone recognized me for my work. I had finally made it. The book they asked me to write sounded great, but then none of the stuff that made him interesting was allowed to stay. Chop, chop, snip, snip, anything that even slightest threat to Guy's image ended up gonzo. What was the stuff that made him interesting? At his core, Guy was not complicated. In fact, I think I would boil him down to two traits. First, he wanted to be seen as the second coming of the great Elias Roottrees. And second, he'd never be satisfied living the life needed to be seen that way. He had his fortune and good looks, and he really liked to exploit that to pick up women. But he couldn't let anyone else know, so it cost him a lot to cover it up. That was the only interesting aspect of Guy. He was James Bond trying to convince people he was Mr. Rogers, I guess. Mr. Rogers? Really? Maybe that's not the best metaphor, but Elias Roottrees was boring as hell and all about family. Guy did everything he could to be seen that way. After I submitted my first draft, he sent me his garbage book, The Roottrees Legacy, with Elias on the cover. Last time he and I met, he had even switched out his orange suits for the same green ones Elias wore. You remember Elias' fancy flavors? Guy knew what part of Elias' legacy was the 5-piece flavors, so that's what Guy tried to do too. Caviar was a disaster here, but it was actually somewhat popular in Brazil for whatever reason. And in Christmas 1979, he went to Brazil to open the Roottrees Brazil factory. Guy was always hopping around the world trying to recreate that success. So, how come the book never came out? It's complicated. I had an out in my contract. Surprisingly, Guy signed the contract my lawyers wrote without running it by anybody in his legal department. I could pull my name off the book at any time, but Guy still got the content. After I left, it probably got a lot harder to convince a real publisher to give it their time. He was the president, right? Do you know why he never released it himself? If I had to guess, his family very wisely put a stop to it. Mid-1981, months after I already moved on, he called me back and showed me the final draft. Do you know how expensive it is to publish a copy of a book? It had my name on it in big shiny embossed letters, like all problems in his life. Throwing money at me was his attempt to win me back. But it had half the page count and the narrative was torn to bits. No thanks. The dinner was good. Imported steak that likely cost as much as a month of my mortgage. And we all got pretty drunk. He sent me his mistress, Susie something, into the bathroom to proposition me? Poor girl. I remembered her from our trip overseas. She was too good for him. Anyways, he died soon after, and that was the last that ever came up. I hope this meant the business proposition and the threesome proposition. What can you tell us about the family? Any insight into the scandals from the recent book by Sam Manson? I actually haven't read it. I just skimmed the sections on Guy to see why people were suddenly calling me up and ask about the man. I'd say she did well for what she had to work with. She only had rumors where I spent time tailing him. Sometimes he knew, sometimes he didn't. He invited me to join them when dealing with Roottrees Brazil, but actually had people on him when he went to Australia, France, and China too. When he met with someone, I'd figured out who they were and how they were involved. Doubly so if the meeting happened when he didn't want me to be around. Despite his best efforts, I got the whole truth, including things his family never knew. For example, the daughter of his business partner in Australia, I think her name was Robin, he and she definitely spent a few nights together that he didn't want his family to know, but I did. Madsen got things wrong? Sam mentions Guy's affairs and treats them like most people would logically think to treat them, like the infidelity was a problem for Patricia. When his wife first approached me, though, it wasn't to talk, if you get my meaning. On paper and in public, it was marriage like any other, but in reality, it was more of a mutually beneficial arrangement. They both got what they wanted out of it, the same thing. What was that? I'm assuming I only have to spell it out so you can get it in writing for your readers. woman. Patricia enjoyed the company of women, and the swinger scene made it more accessible. I told her I wasn't interested in her and Guy. I found out later that if I had said yes, her next question would have been whether or not her husband actually had to be there too. Guy, on the other hand, was seen in a traditional marriage, and at the same time could bad any women that found him charming. I can assure you that was exactly the type of marriage he was interested in. Brazil. Brazil. Roottrees Brazil, sometimes erroneously referred to as Roottrees Brazil, is one of the companies created by manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as a part of Roottrees Everywhere Initiative near beginning 1979. Unlike some of the other Roottrees Everywhere results, Roottrees Brazil seems to be a success. You do some rough translating and find significant amount of information about it. Brazil was the only region which caviar-flavored 5 pieces, released in the end of 1978, were a hit. The primary reason that factory still exists to this day is solely to create that flavor, which comes in its own standalone 5 pieces bag with Portuguese writing. A small town named Alva Lagos, near the municipality of São Bernardo do Campo, became the location chosen by the Roottrees Candy Company after the newly elected politician named Edson Soares heard they were planning a new factory and petitioned them in early 1979. The factory was controversial, as locals did not want it there. The Roottrees visited Brazil around Christmas and managed to break ground for the project. Since then, however, it has been operating relatively smoothly, except for 2 incidents. The first was Incendio do Bordo in 1982, and the second was a successful strike in 1995 that involved all of the factory workers being replaced. Wow. Assheads. The factory owners. The factory was originally built and run, according to paperwork and time, by a small company named Nova Corpora. Ciao. De Doces Brazil? Doces Brazil? No idea. Which finally translates New Brazil Candy Corporation. This company no longer exists, but not much information has ever existed about it, and the Roottrees is now rendered to Brazil entirely. I think this sentence is here for me to prevent me from searching, but I will still search it. Just in case. Let's go to Roottrees Everywhere. Roottrees Everywhere is an expansion in the late 1970s. It coincided with some other large changes in the company and had mixed success. As far as you can tell, the different companies related to it were all formed in very different and sometimes haphazard ways. There is minimal organized information about the history of the expansion itself online, but you can glean the following. Roottrees candy had been distributed globally to certain markets approved by Elias as early in 1940s. This included places like Canada, Mexico, and select countries in Europe, mostly UK. Roottrees Everywhere involved Roottrees' expansion to other major markets that were assessed to be ready for Roottrees. This started with 4 that it had no share in: Australia, Brazil, China, and France. Each of the countries had an early new company formed mostly by making deals with local distributors and manufacturers. We'll come back to this. Let's go focus on Brazil for now. Edson Soares was a Brazilian politician. You find a dissertation published by college students part of their PhD in history. It focuses on the rise in democracy in Brazil. It seems up until 1988, Brazil was run by the military, and the politics during the time were often a hotbed of corruption and nepotism. The paper tells of a few politicians at this time, including Edson Soares. Edson is a former mayor of Alva Lagos, Brazil. Before politics, he was a manager at an automotive manufacturer playing for a major American car company. And then he switched to candy. He was put in charge of Lagos by the military government in 1973. As mayor, he used his manufacturing background and knowledge of American business to establish new factories, distribution plants, and other business ventures in the area. This had two side effects. First, he became quite rich. Second, many locals were forcibly relocated. This did not make him a popular mayor. And what in the paper speculates was a move to counteract his unpopularity. His wife, Sonia, was discreetly put in charge of a television station named Rede. He often used this connection to ensure supporters would appear on local television spouting his beliefs and emphasizing his political victories. He remained in office until 1988, when he was defeated in the first election after the military government was no longer in control. After this election loss, he quickly left the town behind. It is not known where he has gone, but in the dissertation, Evan speculates he likely fit to stay alive. Very possible. Incendio de Bordo translated to Maple Fire. In 1982, the factory was deliberately attacked in a case of clear arson. The fire was brought under control after destroying about 2/3 of the production floor. The local claimed that the air smelled like a mix of burning plastic and maple syrup. And the factory was rebuilt in continuous production to this day. At the time, it was unknown why this happened, but last year a news special lists this incident as well as a few others in small town as a backlash to perceived corruption in the government at the time. According to the report, the mayor of the city was found to be receiving a cut of factory's profits. Of course he did. Sao Bernardo do Campo is a real place in Brazil. A game designed by the name of Jeremy Johnson looks up cities in Brazil that had a lot of manufacturing so that he could place a fictional factory there. He did not want to offend any Brazilians with the tale he was writing that involved corruption and politics. So the small town name he made up, Alvalagos, there where the factory was located, was invented by mixing two other regions, Interlagos and Alvarenga. Good to know. Good for you. There does not seem to be anyone relevant by name of Sonia source list anywhere you online can find. However, Spider Star does return a page that lists a news anchor in Brazil named Flaviasaurus, who has a mother named Sonia. Flaviasaurus is a young Brazilian newscaster with a bit of a cult following. The discourse surrounding him is, to put in polite terms, lewd. There's a website about something called fanfiction that has a small section dedicated to him. AF3. Oh, it seems that women and some men of wide variety of ages and writing skill tend to find him worth his inclusion in their stories. He skims some of the tales there, and the common thread is that he's currently dating a supermodel named Ashley York. Okay. I don't know how she's related to all of this, but many stories either seem to ignore her existence or get her out of the picture rather quick. How hot is he? There are also other more traditional fan sites that list some things about him, including his age, 18. Newscaster at 18? Lewd fan fiction about a guy who is 18? Are you kidding me? His zodiac sign, his favorite food, grilled steak, his mother named Sonia. Also, it seems that Flavia translates golden haired. One website with a signed public photo of Flavia seems to confirm that this photo has been added to evidence. What is he, red hair? Redhead? Where is he? To Natasha, kisses from Brazil, Flavia. So... Is this what I think it is? Where is he? I just saw him. How should I find her? What is she doing? Advertising. Like this? What was his name? Where is his name? Edson. How the hell should I ever find her maiden name? Ashley York, a British model, appeared on the cover of Teen Blast wearing a fur shawl 3 months ago. This appearance doesn't lead to any useful information, but another more recent appearance in text only mentions she's dating Flavia Soros. In it, a Teen Blast report asks how they met. I was in Rio for Carnival and he was on one of the parent floats. I had no idea who he was, but I liked what I saw and told my people to invite him to the party I was going to. I felt pretty stupid once I realized that we were going to his party. Well, his mother's party. She runs a media empire down there called whatever it is. Transmissão Paula is a massive media group run by mysterious women. Ooh. Ha! There we go. Newscaster Dean sounds like Nepo hire? Yeah, he does. But also, like, what does he know? 18. Do you know how much training newscasters actually go through? At least in this country. I think it's like not a job you can do at 18, no matter how much of a Nepo baby you are. Oh yeah. Okay. Bum. Let's go back to the text just for... I don't think we need it anymore, but... just so we don't miss anything. Sonia Alves is a common name in Brazil, so she has shortened her name to Nia to stand out in public's eye. According to a history page that focused on her company and vague, unsearchable details, Nia received a significant inheritance in 1980 and invested in many different manufacturing businesses in her hometown. And by inheritance, do we mean hush money? At the same time, she had just begun to learn the ins and outs of running television network. She continued to work on television until 1988 when Brazil began its period of reform. She felt this was the perfect opportunity to launch her own media company using her investment and connections. Now her company owns television networks, magazines, newspaper, and advertising firms. After doing some translating, the page about Neil is hers and married. Does not go into any other relationship history. Searching for Neil online to learn that she stays out of spotlight. She doesn't even appear in shareholder meetings. She sends a proxy. Why does BGM sound like a copyright-free version of Flavia and Rose? No idea. I don't know. I didn't jump there. British supermodel who does ads for perfume, clothing, and jewelry. She has been subject to some controversy in the past few months, having been protested by PETA for wearing fern covers of magazines. She's dating a Brazilian news anchor. He's too young to date, excuse me. Let's go to Australia. Roottrees Australia is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of Roottrees Everywhere Initiative summer 1979. According to a history website for Roottrees Australia, Charles Martin, who owned the company that manufactured licorice in Australia, was tapped to run the Roottrees factory after he impressed the American leadership of the Roottrees company at the time. Roottrees Australia did have some success, but only in certain regions. The manufacturing leg of the company shuttered in 1992 after the death of Martin, and the Roottrees Australia now serves as an importer and distributor. Charles Martin was a candy manufacturer in Australia, born in 1923. He had a popular brand of licorice. I hate licorice. I don't know how people eat it. Called Martin's Licorice Bullets. Most of his history is unrelated to Roottrees. However, in 1979 he helped to develop Roottrees Australia. He used his own wealth to build a new factory, and they distributed the maple trees through the same method. Need to sleep early, Jane? Good night. Come back when you're free. And have a good rest. Yes, it's been a while. Website commercial mentioned he had a very unusual business agreement with the main Roottrees company in the US. Much like the Clan's Trust distributed the profits from the Roottrees company evenly to Roottrees family, the profits of the Roottrees Australia would be split 50-50 between American Roottrees company Martin himself, for him to do with what he wishes. This made Martin very, very wealthy, and also led to many cost-cutting measures meant to increase profits as much as possible, especially towards the end of Martin's life in early 90s. Roottrees candy gained a poor reputation in Australia, and sales suffered immensely. Charles' best fortune was passed to his daughter, Robin Martin. Nice. Who sold both businesses at the first opportunity. Of course she did. Robin Martin is featured on many of the top 100 wealthiest women in the world lists. She owns a private island off the coast of Australia. Good for her, where she reportedly has her own exclusive retreat. She has no husband, and there was a widely circulated rumor somewhere in 90s mid-70s that she had a medical procedure to ensure she never would have children. Good for her. You find a joke on a site called Edgy Jokes that implies that she's quite promiscuous and has punchline involving Robin's ex. For what it's worth, Martin seemed to lean into the rumors. In the 80s, she once showed up at a charity function with three very attractive men, each wearing a shirt that simply said satisfied part. Good for her. Besides the jokes about Robin's ex, there's a lot of jokes about the band U2 for some reason. Okay. Let's try her in some periodicals. No luck so far. Okay. Apparently, Robin Martin sold off her father's assets in 1992, the year after he died, which combined her inheritance immediately captured her to an almost unimaginable level of wealth. The writer of Business Watch, who was assigned to report on this news, seems to disapprove of this move immensely. While the article does touch on the announcement of who took over the licorice division, as well as what was to become of the maple candy factory, the entire text seems to be dripping with contempt. Someone would be willing to dismantle and gut such a successful company to earn a quick buck. The article ends with a dig at Robin's personal life and lack of traditional values. But who am I to judge? Maybe she sold it to ensure the better future for her own children. Oh wait. I see. Writer. Business Watch mostly focuses on American business, but the expansion of Roottrees to Australia did create a bit of a blip in 1978. It mentions that Charles Martin met with the legal and leadership teams from Roottrees in late 1977. They came to an agreement and broke ground on a new factory in 1978. The Roottrees company's statement, said to come directly from the president, was brief and a bit awkward. Roottrees is excited to begin a new adventure down under. We're extremely impressed with Charles Martin and feel like this expansion heralds a new era for Roottrees that will last for years to come. Roottrees founded in family, and Charles' family has also impressed us, especially his daughter Robin. We should know she'll continue to steer the ship as Elias Roottrees family continues to do so here in the USA. No, she did not. I wonder if there are any more about Robin, though. Let's go to France for now. Roottrees France is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of Roottrees Everywhere initiative in 1979. Apparently, Roottrees France was a non-starter. Negotiations broke down pretty late in the process after the company had already been formed, and then leadership of Roottrees went through a very large change soon after. The CEO of Roottrees France was meant to be Tristan Robert. Tristan Robert is a businessman who at one time was in negotiations to take over Roottrees France. He's still alive, and you come across an interview related to Roottrees for a few months ago. It seems that other countries have not been immune to Roottreemania, as he recognized the word Roottrees in one of the questions. It seems the interviewer snuck in a question about his experience with the company at the end of the 70s. The article is in French and takes some time to translate section by section. He mentions Guy by first name only, and the tale he tells is quite ugly. The translation is as follows. Guy is the president of Roottrees. Was one of the worst men I have ever met. He approached my wife about having an affair, which she refused. He then kept insisting that this was the best way to celebrate the end of business contract. I don't think he expected her to say no, and I don't think he thought she would tell me what happened. I punched him in the face and refused to attend another meeting with the man. I lost a lot of money on this deal because not only was he a terrible person, but he was also a terrible businessman. When he died shortly after, it felt like the universe was working things out. I wasn't surprised to learn he had a secret child. He seemed to treat women like collectible pocket monsters. It seems mentioning Pokemon sidetracks the questions a bit, and the interview never returns to the subject of Roottree. But what secret child? Which one? Which one? Hmm. I mean, even if he did spend if she had a procedure to not have children. Is it a red herring? So still no idea who this is. And how to get to these people. Valor and Rootrees' diary. Since I went other places, let's see then. China Roottrees is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottrees candy. It was developed as part of Roottrees Everywhere initiative in the summer of 1979. During the late 70s, China began to go through a period of economic reform. This led to new opportunities for American companies, and Roottrees Candy Company decided to pounce. Long Hongbo, who was said to personally win over Roottrees family and was the owner of multiple textile factories, did not wish to import the ingredients and build special factories to manufacture candy in China. So instead, they made a deal to import bulk and package Roottrees candy and label it not only China but additional markets. Hongbo, who was already in mid-50s when the deal happened, only had daughters. and his brother Hongyu took control upon his death, 1997. Oldest child, next generation. Okay. You come across a website from Long Thai Textile Corporation, which is the company that helped expand Roottrees products in China since late 1970s. The company seems very accomplished. Their site has quotes from many different reporters and news articles listed on it, in nearly every language. It also mentions quite often on websites about Chinese businesses, but those mentions are company-focused and not people-focused, and don't often offer any information useful to investigation. Their page contains a very rudimentary leadership timeline with names that prove that the company has been in the Lang family for a long time. It kind of looks like a family tree. It goes back at least 250 years or something from one another. During the period there began Roottrees Lang Hongbo. In China, the family name comes first. Lang, his last name was the CEO. He died before the internet was widespread, so there is not much out there than his name on the website. His younger brother, Lang Hongyu, is featured on the history section directly following him. This also seems to be only mention of the man. The current CEO is a woman listed as Shinriki. The site doesn't list her last name, though she does appear in her family tree below home. Lang ties a few American logos on the page, one Roottrees logo and other trunk quilts, and this third is piece of Asia. Lang Xinyu is a businesswoman currently running a Lang textile company. She was recently listed in an article on a website written by and for women. The article, entitled Empowered, is about recent rise of women entrepreneurs in China. The article states that due to her lack of brothers, she has a younger sister. Lang Xinyu took over CEO of her family's company in 1992 after her elderly uncle was deemed unfit to run company due to mental deterioration. This was apparently an extremely controversial move among company's employees, and some of them, the article does not state how many, quit and wrote a letter stating that she must have cursed him in his vulnerable state. Since then, the company has been performing well. Her nephew, who is currently her second in command, is expected to take over when she retires. In the meantime, the board's stance has been a twist on a popular proverb. The article roughly translates it as, someone that has proven they can do something well can do it 100 times well. An unproven leader could doom us all. The article also offhandedly mentions that Shinyu was an early adopter of IVF and helped her sister have a child. There's an unsourced picture in the article. It says it's written from 92 when she took over. She was 45 at the time. It has been into your evidence. Did she have an affair? Its 7 trunk quilts is a play tranquil and quilts. Name is ironic considering they are the loudest quilts you've ever seen. The main quilt featured on the website is flaming unicorn soaring through space with bees symbols all around it. Although they had listed the website for the Lang Thai textile company, they don't seem to have much of a connection. It appears they import cloth. Piece of Asia is American North Lang Thai, located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. According to their site, the Thai and Lang Thai translate peaceful, so they chose their name in America to match. There are a lot of other companies listed there. Here, too many to investigate, as very few of them seem to have any relevance. The thin piece of Asia is nearly as accomplished as Lang Tai. They offer fabrics and clothes at the wholesale prices. You don't spot anything out of ordinary. The business is said to be owned by husband and wife Geraldine Han. Their Chinese names are listed too. And from using online translators, it seems that Jerry's Han Junwei. Ooh. The sister. But before I do this, I want to do the... Okay, no. Geraldine and Mark Hahn appeared recently on a website called Focus on Philanthropy under the headline Hanging in the Hands. The Huns were chosen because they donate significantly to causes for their Chinese American culture. Jerry and Linda were both born in China and fell in love during college. Linda's father led a large company. This article never names it. After it expanded into the US, Linda's father approved their marriage so long as Jerry took over the US portion of the business. Linda jokes that the entire situation is like something out of
Seek fluid intake.
Hello, thank you. Alanis Morissette's song with how ironic it all ended up. I was absolutely terrified to move to the United States, but my big sister was desperately in love with the idea. She used to have this Butch Cassidy poster on her wall obsessed with Robert Redford. But somehow Jerry and I were the ones sent here, and now we couldn't possibly imagine going back. When we had Mark, we never even considered giving him a traditional name. Meanwhile, my sister stayed in China and has thrived there. She doesn't even like visiting the US anymore. Our kids are complete opposites, though Mark couldn't wait to travel abroad as soon as he was old enough. He's actually in business school in China now, working with my sister. Our niece, who grew up there, was the opposite. She couldn't wait to get here. She started calling herself Lucy Lang in school and flew out here as soon as she graduated. The name change apparently drove my sister absolutely loco. I think we found her. What's her name? I will put it CO for now. And to think that we found her. Lucy Lang is not exactly a common name. Well, before I forget, let's put her in here. Lucy Lang. But it's not the most uncommon you've come across either. There are a few that come up with any searchable details, so it might be possible to narrow down your possibilities. Lucy Lang is mentioned in robotics website as part of Team Talent Claw. Team Talent Claw are one of only two teams from the US participating in a robot-based show in the UK. Another Lucy Lang is a part of a small women's a cappella group in Los Angeles called the Gin and Tonics. A third Lucy Lang works in New York for a business called Corporate Synergetic Solutions Limited. We will search them all up in a second. Before that, we need to find how... What's her name? This one. Oh. No. Yep. And let's look up the Lucy's. Team Talonklaw's robotics club Mid-Eastern University. Their robot, also named Talonclaw, has been selected for appearance on the second season of a British television show focused on robot fighting. A small blurb mentions that the robot fighting leagues have existed for a few years, but there have been recent moves to televise it. Talonclaw has one of the two teams selected from the US. Where's my tea? The Robotics Club has a text-only site you can find linked from the university's students section. The site seems like it's used mostly to announce the schedule to its members. The club is supposed to meet every Tuesday and Thursday, but the last 8 days have been cancelled because a few members of the team are currently in the UK filming. Another date from a few weeks back was cancelled for interview with the school's newspaper. At the bottom, the traveling members included as team captain Jaya Patel, supporting members Lucy Lang and Kurt Hauser. Why don't we get the name for the TV show, though? Nice. The Herald has a story about their school robotics team, Team Talonclaw, at least 3 students members, and talks a bit about each of their history, including their interest in robotics. The only one that catches your attention is Lucy Lang. She grew up in China as Ming Lang, but came to, specifically to attend university. Ooh. Maybe. But it's also kind of sad that it's the first out of 3. Maybe it's not. Maybe all of them are equally close. You'll have to search it up. She says she grew up around factory-scale machines that assembled products that would be shipped all over the world, and the moving parts of automation fascinated her. However, as she has progressed through her major, she has become obsessed with smaller, more powerful hydraulics, such as mechanisms that closes Talonclaw's weapon. In addition to robotics, she loves linguistics. Excuse me. One of her hobbies since coming to States has been collecting accents. In her spare time, she practiced not only removing any trace of her native inflection, but also quickly switching between multiple different regional accents. She feels her personal best is Southern Belle, but her favorite is the Valley Girl due to its use in popular culture. The Gin and Tonics are college a cappella group Los Angeles. Lucy Lang is listed as soprano. There doesn't seem to be much else about her other than name and that she performs soloist and song called Like the Wind. The group were featured in a CD compilation called Boca, performing a cover of popular boy band song. It doesn't seem relevant to research. Subways of Your Mind by FEX is an early 1980s pop song, and it was #1 hit in many countries, though it peaked in 6 in the US. It is still played to this day on contemporary stations around the world, and is often found on compilation discs of popular music. One reviewer of the time has quoted saying Subways of Your Mind is one of those rare songs that feels like it had always existed, and the artist just plucked it fully formed from the collective ether. It's hard to imagine a world in which this modern classic won't become a regular part of our audio landscape for the next 100 years. What a sad, empty world that would be. FEX had many follow-ups that were just as popular in European countries, though their continued success was significantly more limited to the United States. Their next single, Talking Hands, only reached 24, and their third single, Modern Danger, failed to chart at all, due to Subway of Your Mind famously starting with the catchy opening phrase, like the wind, and perhaps due to its somewhat lengthy title. Those seeking it out requesting often search for like the wind. Many lyric sites, music hosting sites even label it incorrectly, making this mistake even more common. When searching for a combination of like the wind and attempting to narrow it down to results that include Roottrees, you find that an obscure Irish band called U2. What does this game has against U2? One cited both FX and Jim and Diamond as inspirations. Really now? As far as you can tell, neither FX nor Subways has anything to do with your search, and seeing as U2 is relatively unknown to anyone outside Dublin for connection, seems to be not coincidence. Really now? Really now? U2 unknown to anyone outside Dublin? I think even what was this year? 1998? Even 1998 YouTube was pretty big. I think. Maybe. Maybe I'm jumping a few years back. BOCA stands for Best of College a cappella and has existed since 1995. It's a compilation of various a cappella groups of different colleges, often performing covers of popular music. It doesn't appear very relevant to Roottrees or anyone connected to the Roottrees. Nobody has ever done a cover song by Jim and Diamond, for example. Maybe someday. Corporate Synergetic Solution Limited is a company located in New York City. Lucy Lang is a lead synergy engineer who is listed as being ranked one of top facilitators in the world by Business Watch magazine. As far as I tell, CSSU is a company that other companies hire as their consultants to increase productivity. It's unclear the exact services they provide. The site is light on details. There are a few high-profile companies listed on the site, former clients. You recognize their names, but none of them relate to your current investigation. Alyssa Lang is listed on Business Watch for her New York work with Corporate Synergetic Solutions Unlimited. She's an article about consultants that corporations hire to facilitate larger internal changes. Each person features an article has a small bias section, however, followed by a longer section about why they were chosen. Lucy's bias section meant that she grew up in a small Arkansas town, so the first one was our Lucy. The oldest 4 children, and she's only the second person in her family to ever have even left the state, since her great-grandparents located in early 1900s. She's earned her degree from prestigious engineering. I think we can skip it, since she's not the one. Do you think this is close? No idea, to be honest. Mm. I think we're almost done with the guy, with the exception for not having a photo for Christine. For now. But this thing here. I probably should look into this guy some more. Find if he has. Oh no, we know that he has children. We just don't know. Searching by print museum, you come across their websites, dates, their hours, list exhibits. The building is very small, admission is free, and they only have room for a few different displays. One of the exhibits in their courtyard, which includes a fountain as well as a statue of a non-author. The picture has been into your evidence, now there's printing press. It was used by Miami Sunday, now defunct weekly newspaper, last an original Cuba by Cubans. At first glance, it doesn't seem like you're searching anyway. But if not at the first glance, Marcia Barbang. On second glance, and still does not search. I see you, game. I see you being mean to me. So mean. Ah, mean. Okay. No idea. Focus on philanthropy. Okay. Did I look this up before? I think I've looked this up before. Hmm? Oh. I did look this up before. How would I look for Guy Hudson? How would I look for her husband's name? This. Susan Ford. Who are these? Oh, that's the people who died in the plane crash. Now this guy. I need to find about his family. News time, just a small piece about fight between Sims and Crocodile, but tried to approach from different perspective. Their goal was to paint a picture to women bold from others who knew them best. Nice. Not did they manage to introduce Sim's wife Carl as well as multiple staff members at his school, but they hunted down Colleen Webb. Nice. Colleen Webb. Mark's ex-wife. According to the section with Colleen, she and he met when he was worked for an airline. She worked in airport newsstand. He was a drinker and would often have wild mood swings. When he was charged with assault of fellow pilot 1975, he lost his job. They divorced. At the time, she was pregnant with their second daughter, and she felt she needed to get out before things got worse. She left here and moved to San Diego to live with her sister and told her oldest that her dad had to fly planes for the army. She raised them both by herself, and although she never went through the trouble of changing their names legally, they used a web name so that nobody would connect them to her ex-husband. But what are their names? Calm. We know that what names they use, but we also know that legally their names are gonna be his name, whatever it is. Also, how can you use not your legal name? In reality, I don't know. Unless in a very small capacity. When you tell people, call me this. Or maybe it was easier in 90s. Duck, help me. Okay. The Picadilly magazine is kind of sleazy, so they're not afraid to publish a few details that more reputable news publication normally wouldn't. You look up the Billy Sims incident, and it seems they did report on it. Again, a few new bits of information, though it might not be useful. Billy Sims was once arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at a company that was found to be testing their products on animals. Good for him. According to police paperwork, Crocodile Clementine's bail was paid by Darito Jacobson. It was fairly expensive. Mary Webb. Okay. Picard interviewed other students that were at the event to find out if they knew anything, and the word going around was that Mark Clementine showed because his daughter Mary was grading that night. The Portland Telegraph had an article slightly longer than most about Billy Sims' incident, mostly because the exalted crocodile Clementine had appeared in the paper before. Because of the somewhat comedic sensationalism of events in question, and because their readers were already familiar with Mark Clementine, they filed it under a special banner called Crocwatch. It mentioned that our good friend Croc Clementine was actually in attendance in the high school graduation because his daughter was walking the stage. He was apparently not allowed to attend. His ex-wife had a restraining order filed on behalf of her daughter, but did so anyways. It was unknown for the school staff, including Sims, at the time who he was, but the security guard recognized him and that when the trouble started. Okay, I think we did read that one. Let's start with Mary Webb on the web. Then we'll go from here. Nice. And Mary Webb in San Diego has a website called Web on the Web. I made this joke first. Apparently, it's a personal travel diary that also doubles as an advertisement for her travel agency. There are descriptions of Mary's services, including booking flights and cruises. Almost all of them involve extremely niche audiences. It seems Mary is the #1 agent when it comes to booking spiritual vacations aboard ghost ships with specific hotel rooms that are said to be haunted. She also has a dedicated section for more traditional modern cruises that cater to specific groups such as fans of boy bands. Good business. In the diary entry, she talks about the trips she personally taken and uses that as an opportunity to feature descriptions of amenities and excursions that the ships offer, even when you're on them to see a specific band or a ghost. There's also pictures of ships, hotels, landmarks, and places she's visited, as well as a picture of Mary herself with the ship in the background. One of her diary entries actually mentions the day that photo was taken. She was allowed onto the ship on a port day in San Diego with a professional photographer she knows. The photo of Mary has been added to evidence. Thank you very much. Now, is Mary younger or older is what I would like to know. Corporate Composition Photography is a photography studio that was listed on a few different sites for businesses in San Diego. It seems to have been possible to hire them to take professional quality photos for businesses of all sorts. As far as you can tell, it appears to no longer exist. The company is also mentioned on a photography site with some IRC chat logs. It seems like the site is the personal page of a member of IRC photography channel. They have archives of logs they've been saving since 1993. One of them was born 96, when Val, the former head of photographer of corporate composition photography, did a Q&A with their users about taking pictures of promotional materials and print ads. Most of the questions and answers are pretty technical. They not only seem irrelevant but generally go over your head. One of the questions, however, mentions that Val was on the cover of Telephoto and asks about Iraq. The question was quickly shut down by the person running Q&A, who said Val does not wish to answer any questions from him photojournalist day, nor does he wish to talk about LBP. Please keep this on the subject of commercial photography. Nice. Well, how are you relevant? Well, too much for me. Well, wasn't a cover. Telephotos, Iran, Iraq. Lincoln baby photographer seems like a solid lead as it mentions well an award-winning photographer on the page. It's a business in Beacon, New York, and on the side a picture of a baby and a camera captured with Cam Lincoln reaching for his namesake. I guess he takes after his father. Well, who are these people? At the bottom up says copyright 1999. Hmm. Well, I guess was featured into the photo, the cover which can feature one of his photos as well as portions of article and be anterior evidence. Okay. Oh. Clementine. Huh. The Photos Photography magazine 1992 issues focuses on photo as well Lincoln, a photographer who went overseas during Desert Storm. He won a CP award for photojournalism, especially for the photo of the cover. Well, got his start in high school when he took a photography class because, in his own words, he couldn't decide what else to do and thought it would be best career in the world than to shoot for Playboy. But he quickly found he had a knack for it and began to skip lunch in his free periods to spend more time in the darkroom. After graduating, he tried to pivot to landscape photography, but didn't have any passion for it. I work much better when I'm trying to tell the story of a person or an object. He got lucky when a photographer mentor of his was going overseas to cover the war, decided to take a chance on him. Most people couldn't call it lucky to go on an active war zone for no pay, but he bought my plane tickets, all my meals, and even pulled some strings so we could rush my passport. For someone that had never had a real job or even left California, it was a hell of a break. Val was only 18 at the time, and the first shot photo that won him an award the third night he was there. The photo depicts Lisa Clementine. Yes, thank you. Who lost an arm in operating Russian Desert Saber. Should just highlight the whole thing. According to the article, women were not subject to direct combat, and Lisa was in a vehicle at the time. The vehicle had to pull over suddenly when the road ahead was partially destroyed, and she and a fellow soldier were severely injured by a landmine. Val says, I ran to Lisa just after her surgery and took this picture. Then, until she shipped out, I kept finding excuses to go back and take more pictures of her. I guess it was fate because that's the photo that won me an award, got me into your magazine, and also led me to my engagement. Just early this week, she agreed to become Mrs. Lincoln. Ha! Ha 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 ha. And we can search her up to make sure she's did not change career accidentally. Let's try. Travel. Oh, the baby. They didn't let me do the baby.